Are you comfy on there, Poppy? That's to cover my plants. She loves something to lay on, Poppy does. Now, you can see our elephant garlic are looking amazing. I think we're going to get some lovely big heads this year to be able to eat. But you can probably see that they're actually starting to send up their scapes. Elephant garlic are a hard neck type of garlic, even though they actually belong to the leek family. They're not actually really true garlic. They're a bit of a hybrid, but they do send up scapes just like hard-neck garlic. However, with elephant garlic, you don't want to leave those in. They will take much energy from the plant and the head will not form large like you want it to. Eventually, these can grow to 1 metre or more long. And that's something we don't want. The great thing is you can eat them. All you need to do is just snap them off and fried in a little butter and a few herbs. That's like eating a lovely piece of asparagus.
Yummy.
Now, in today's programme, myself and Mrs. W are going to be trying 2 things that we have never done before. Myself and Mrs. W, we want by next season to be able to produce our very own sowing and potting mix. In essence, we want to make our own multi-purpose mix. And I know that there are several of you out there, because you've told me in your comments that you already do this. So do please leave us your comments. Tell us what your mix is and share it with everybody else. And then with the things that we go ahead and do, hopefully we'll all come up with a mix that will help us all. Not least our plants, but our pockets as well. In order for us to be able to make our very own multi-purpose compost, we're going to need a few ingredients. Not least some lovely fine compost. And to help us do that, we are going to be making a wormery or a vermicompost, aren't we?
Yes, a vermicomposter. To make your own vermicomposter or wormery, you will need 3 same size stackable or interlocking boxes and a lid. You also need a drill with a 5mm drill bit, a piece of hessian. I've already made a start drilling the holes. I've got a few more just to finish on this one here. This one is already finished. So with the bottom box, you just leave that as it is. You do not need to drill any holes into that whatsoever.
Why is that, Mrs. W?
Well, because that is going to catch any of the compost juice, the worm juice that comes out, which will make a lovely fertiliser for your plants.
Ah.
So we need that to be watertight at the bottom. But with the rest, I have drilled holes in the bottom, many holes in the bottom, and also around the top edge all the way round of both the second and the third boxes. Luckily for us, the pattern on the bottom of this box has lent itself to the pattern of holes that I'm drilling, but we need them to be roughly 1 hole per square inch. And I've just used the hexagon pattern at the bottom as a guide. got nice even spaced holes all the way across the bottom and around the top edge for ventilation. And they'll just simply fit together like that with the lid on the top. Now we need to add the bedding for the worms, and for this we are using our own homemade compost that we've been making in the beast and one thing and another. So I've got some of that here, and you need to add 2 to 3 inches in the bottom. I've put 2 to 3 inches of the bedding into the middle section of the stack. And now, the interesting bit, we add the worms. So let's empty them in.
Oh yes, and we purchased these worms off the internet, didn't we?
We did, and they are tiger worms.
And if after watching this you want to do the same as us and have a go, and you don't yet do this, I will leave a link in the description where we got these worms from. The worms don't like the sunlight, do they? So they should bury themselves pretty quickly, shouldn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. But what I am now going to do is give them a little bit of food. And for this, I'm searching in my kitchen waste bucket. You can more or less, from what I've read, give them any kitchen waste, other than they don't like onion skins, they don't like a lot of citrus peel, and they don't like any dairy. But anything else, they like eggshells, coffee grounds, peelings. I'm going to find some peelings in here in a little while. Don't want to put that onion in there.
Shouldn't give them too many onion skins, should you?
No, you shouldn't. They don't like the onion skins.
Yeah. It's not. I don't think it's so much that. From what I've read, I think it's more to do with the fact that it can make the compost too acidic, and worms don't like it too acidic.
No. Let's give them a few of these kale leaves. I'm sure they'll quite like that. And I think we've got some potato peelings somewhere. Yeah.
Well, they do say that the worms can eat half their body weight in food, don't they?
Yes, yeah.
There are 250 grams of worms in there, so you're looking at about 125 grams of food every day that they'll eat, won't they, Mrs. W?
Yeah. Well, we'll put this in for now and let them wriggle around. And the next thing I'm going to do, I've got an old piece of hessian sack here. Just give that a bit of a... And it's a moist... It needs to be moist. They need to stay moist. They don't like the sun. They don't like to dry out. So I'm going to put my hessian sack over the top.
That must be why they only come to the surface when it rains.
Probably, yeah. And as a little added extra, I've got also a piece of egg box that I'm going to just... I think that'll help to keep the moisture in. Now all I'm going to do is put the top on there. That is going to be vacant for a little while the middle section fills up. As it does, the compost will build in the middle section, and any liquid will drain out of the bottom into the sump, where you can collect that in a bottle to use as your liquid fertiliser. And as the middle section then fills up, you then start feeding in the top section, and the worms will come through the holes. They will migrate upwards as they come for the new food that you're putting in, and then you start building up the top section, and eventually you will empty the middle section when all of the worms are migrated into the top section, and then you move the top to the middle and start it again.
That's really quite good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And my next question is, Mrs. W, where are we actually going to keep this?
Yeah, well, you mustn't keep it in direct sunlight. They don't like direct sun. They like an ideal temperature of about 20, definitely not any higher than 25. And in the winter, you need to move them into a shed or the polytunnel or greenhouse so that they have a little bit of added protection. They do like the black boxes because they don't like the sunlight to come through a white box or anything like that, so we've gone with black. I think I'm going to just put it quite close to the house so that we don't forget to feed them. And it's an area where it's mainly in shade, but it's warm and it's sheltered. So I think we'll try them there to start off with.
Yeah. And just as with the worms, I will also put a link in the description where we got these boxes from.
Yes,
So
yeah.
if you want to have a go at making your own worm compost along with us, you know exactly where we got all our materials from.
Yeah.
Now this year I've decided to make a different use for the Vegegar raised bed. We already have carrots that are growing down in plot 1, and they grow very well in our plots. However, I want to see just what sort of carrots we can actually get growing them in our raised bed. Now when it comes to summer carrots, I like them nice and small, about that long, so wide. They're so lovely and sweet and crunchy. But by the time we get to sort of September and October, November, I want quite large carrots, because we're starting to put carrots into things like stews and casseroles, or we'll want to use them to make trivets so that we can make lovely stocks for either our soups or our roasts or anything else that requires a stock. And you need to cut them a bit more chunkier, otherwise after 20 minutes they're going to disintegrate into nothing. You've just seen I've just made a drill just using the cane. I don't need to be very deep. You'll do things much the same as you did in your beds. This doesn't look too deep here, Mrs. W. I can do give them that just a bit more. There we go. And the other reason why I want to grow carrots in here is that carrot fly can often be a big problem. And the thing that really disappoints you is that you don't know you've got it until you harvest the carrots. And you know, down there they're covered, and they'll need to remain covered all season. Carrot fly can only fly so high. And so hopefully by growing them in this raised bed, this is 30 inches tall, those flies can't fly high enough to be able to lay their eggs and feed on our carrots. And hopefully I can see the lovely lush foliage, which I can't see currently down there because they're all covered. Now just like we do in the beds, what we do need to do is just water the drills. And that's so that I know that the seed is going to get good contact with water and soil. You can probably see the salad onions that are in here, and they were overwintered last season.
They're really lovely onions now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a lovely size. They're ready for us to harvest, and we have had 1 or 2 harvests, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
I'm deliberately leaving these here just at this moment in time because they can denote where they're going to grow. Because I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 rows of carrots here. And then, for the rest of this year, as I sow our salad onions, they're going to go around the edge. Now that's extra insurance, because apparently they say that the smell of onions will deter the carrot fly anyway. I have to say I haven't actually known it to work. I think it's a bit of a myth, because I've done that before and still our carrots have had carrot fly in the plots. But it is an organic method, using a strong smell in order that keeps away from here. Plus they can only fly this tall, and this bed is 30 inches plus tall. So hopefully we'll end up with some lovely, deep, and very thick carrots. Often in gardening, things are not straightforward. You sometimes have to pivot. I have to do this quite often with Mrs. W because she's just informed me, I think I'd like you to grow some Norwich as well. I wasn't going to do any Norwich, not least because they've only drawn 0-0 today in a playoff game. Haven't done particularly well. So now she's made me mention Norwich. Still, there's always the second game next Thursday.
Fingers crossed.
Up in Leeds. What I do want is a continuity of harvest, which is why I'm only sowing this row and this row today. The carrots we sow today we'll be able to use during September and October. And then hopefully the last row we sow, they will see us through November, December and into the new year. Depends on how many carrots we use. Raised beds, of course, are really great because I can stand here and do what I need to do and not have to bend down. And you'll probably see that these are quite close. Normally within the plots I'd allow at least 6 inches between each row. And if you're not no-dig like us and you need to weed a bit more, you'll probably need to allow 10 to 12 inches so you can run a hoe between the carrots. But from here, if any weeds pop up, like there's a little one here I can see, I can just pull that out. And it's very little trouble to do so. We'll start with the Eskimo, and just as if we were sowing them into the plots, what we do need to do is to try and sow them as thinly as possible. And that's so that we don't have to do so much thinning. And I know I said that the carrot fly probably won't be able to get up here, and that's the theory. We won't know that until later on this year. So the thinner that you sow them, the less thinning that you will need to do. When they're sown, we've done them as thinly as we possibly can. Don't show them the green ones that I've done because they show up. But yeah, sowing these comes with a lot of experience, and even when you've been doing them as many years as we have, it is really difficult. They're small seed, so where you have got too many, obviously you just need to thin them. Because these are main carrots, they want about at least an inch between each one, so you may find yourself actually taking 2 or 3 out between each plant in the row. Because what we're aiming for is carrots that are sort of that thickness. And all we need to do now, just as if we were sowing in the ground, is just to move the soil over them. Carrots usually take around 10 to 14 days to germinate. You saw us in our last video, for those that regularly follow our channel, thinning some carrots. So if you're just watching this for the first time and you want to see the best way to thin your carrots, then do search out that video. And that video is called 12 Essential Tasks for May. And we describe in that and show you just how to thin carrots so that you don't lose any and do it the right way. Now we watered from below, that means that they're in good contact with water. But what I am going to do is just give them water from the top. This is actually quite dry. Hasn't rained here for about 2 weeks now. That makes a change, doesn't it, Mrs. W? That does make a change. But when you do water carrots like this, do make sure you've got a ruse on. The last thing you want to be doing is spreading those seed everywhere, and then they don't germinate within their rows. And the other thing is, don't go back to these and keep watering and watering, because you can end up rotting the seed. Leave them for the next week or so and just see what happens. Are they germinating? If you get to 10 days or more and you haven't seen anything yet, then maybe time to give them another water. Maybe they've dried out. We know that we're due a rain shower sometime this coming Wednesday, so they're going to get some water anyway. So hopefully we won't need to come back and water these until they're a bit more established. It'll be actually really quite interesting to see just how big the Norwich get, won't it? We know they have a great taste, but we've actually never grown them as a main crop carrot, so we don't know how long they'll get or how big they'll get, do we?
No, we don't.
So that will be really interesting. I also know that several of you who've been watching us over the last 2 or 3 years, You've also tried the Norwich, so you'll know just how lovely those carrots are. The main time that we tend to sow our main crop carrots is June, and we tend to sow them all in June. So it'll be interesting to see how we get on by just staggering those, because you can sow your main crop carrots anytime between May and June. What I wouldn't do is sow them, if you can possibly help it, after the summer solstice. They need time to be able to get large enough. Yes, you'll get carrots, but they'll be on the small side. And a main crop carrot is going to need 12 to 16 weeks, even up to 20 weeks to get to a really good size. When they do get to that size, they actually store even more. Which reminds me, Mrs. W, I didn't say at the beginning, it's another good reason for sowing them in here. When they're in the plots, when we get the frosts in November, December, January and February, you need to ensure that maybe you've covered them with a bit of straw or harvested enough before that frost comes so that you've got them to use. In here, of course, these are raised, so they shouldn't be affected quite so much by the frost. But we'll let you know all about that as this year progresses. And if you want to see how we get on, you like what we do give us a like. And of course, the way that you'll always know when we've uploaded a video is to subscribe to our channel. I look forward to reading your comments as always. Do have a great gardening week, and we shall see you back in our No Dig Norfolk garden on Sunday.